Hi everybody! Today's episode 1584 features video snippets from USA Watchdog, Senator Graham, also from Barry Cunningham, DOGE. Plus from Doug in Exile, Boom, and wrapping up with Vince Dow, CNN. Highlights begin today, June 5, 2025, at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Don't miss this great lineup.
Help keep free speech alive. Please join Murtech on Locals, Truth Social and on X.
From USA Watchdog, Senators Graham and Blumenthal commit treason, with Martin Armstrong.
From Barry Cunningham, watch live, DOGE subcommittee meeting. And more news.
From Doug in Exile, Boom. This is being broadcast everywhere.
And from Vince Dow, MSNBC attacks CNN on air as media civil war explodes over Jake Tapper and Biden cover-up.
Don't miss this great live stream with Murtech on Rumble tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. The link is in the description box below. Thank you for all your support and may God bless. Oh, by the way, don't forget to follow me and click the thumbs up button. Thanks again.
Hi everybody, this is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on June the 5th in the year of our Lord 2025. Got some really good information for you. Again, I'm trying to live stream in Rumble Studio, so I hope everything works out all right. Let's go ahead and click over here at Murtech on Rumble. And this is the video that you're watching right now. This is my live stream. Let's go ahead and open that up. All right, pause that. And hi, Debbie BS. Nice to see you can make it. All right, let me close that up and slide down here and click the Show More button. And we have USA Watchdog. We have Barry Cunningham, Doug in Exile, and Vince Dow. Some information from these people, and it's some good stuff. Let me slide down here and give a shout out. I got a couple of shout outs today. H2OX just started following my channel, and Fishers45 reposted my video, my daily news wrap-up from last night into this morning. So thank you very much, FisherC45. Let me go ahead and give this comment a thumbs up here. Now watch how easy this is, folks. Okay, I'm just going to move my mouse pointer over there, and boom, there it is. There it is. I'm telling you, it's amazing. And I got one of those thumbs up things here. Looks like, let's see, I think WBS said, yeah, she gave me a thumbs up number 2. WBS got number 2 in there. Okay, who's going to be number 3? But at any rate, let's go ahead and get going with this. USA Watchdog, Senator Graham and Blumenthal commit treason. Now, as you know, we've talked about this before, but Russia and Ukraine were set to meet for peace negotiations. I believe it was in Italy. But then Ukraine, they're going to talk about this, had an invasion. It was compared to Pearl Harbor for Russia the night before the peace talks. And Graham and Blumenthal were in Russia or in Ukraine at the time. Let's jump over here and see what this is all about.
I'm sorry, but that little weasel needs to be said. That he would get our country involved where people would got murdered over this little gay blade, this puppet, meat puppet of a I don't even want to call him a leader. So I'm sorry.
No, look,
I digress. He wanted a U.S. to be drug into a World War III.
Look, even the meeting at the White House, I had information confirmed that Boris Johnson flew to Kiev a couple days before. That meeting was only supposed to be a signing in Kiev. Boris Johnson told him to go to Washington, go before the cameras, embarrass Trump to keep the money flowing. I mean, I tried to say, look, this is what I've heard, and you better be careful. All right.
Wait, and hold on. Your sources, you told the White House this. That's why the meeting didn't embarrass Trump. It embarrassed Zelensky.
Right. I mean, it went the other way.
They were tag teaming him. They were beating him up.
They knew what. I think one of them. I'm not sure I think it was Rubio that finally came out afterwards and said, "Look, this was supposed to have been just a signing in Kiev," and Zelensky insisted. At the last minute, he had to fly to Washington. That's what this was all about. And it was Boris Johnson that told him to embarrass Trump and to try and keep the money going.
Ooh, that backfired.
And yeah, I mean, look, Zelensky, I'm going to just say it bluntly, he doesn't give two shits about any Ukrainian. All right. If he did, he would have never signed, he would have signed a peace deal when Boris Johnson hopped on the plane and said, no, don't sign any peace deal. We want war. All right. That even made the front page of Pravda in Ukraine. All right. Ukrainians I spoke to, and they even said, are we in charge of our own country? Can we decide to have peace ourselves without London and Paris and Washington? And I said, no, you can't. What do you want me to say? They are controlling it. Zelensky could care less ever since Boris Johnson killed that peace deal.
That was during the Biden administration.
Yeah, over 500,000 Ukrainians have died. I mean, he sleeps very nicely at night. No big deal. And he was out again with this. Oh, it was a brilliant attack.
He said that at the peace table. In front of the Russian ministers and negotiators. That's what I hear. He's bragging about it.
Yeah.
What about Trump? His during that Zelensky meeting you brought up at the very beginning, I thought the most important he said was you sign a peace deal or we are out. Is he going to get us out? You're talking to people. I know you can't give away your sources, but I know you have them. Is this the golden ticket for, okay, so we're not going to have peace, then we're out. We're not going to be drug into a war. Is Trump and Republicans going to be smart enough to dodge this bullet? And we'd be a lot fatter and a lot happier than the people in Europe. Are they going to get out of NATO?
I have been in contact with people in the House. And I was actually on Sunday on phone calls with them. All right. I was told there is not going to be any money for Ukraine, that the Republican caucus is anti-Zelensky. And I was actually told that we now agree with you. We should exit NATO. So I am pushing Trump as hard as I can. I've warned them that Europe was planning a major, attack, a false flag, and that's what this is about. Okay. All right. Look, Putin has written how many times? I mean, he's said, you give missiles to attack us, that's a red line. He's created so many red lines, and Europe constantly, violates them. They want him to attack. All right, anything in NATO, so then they can say, see, he's the aggressor. And Putin is very smart. He is avoiding, retaliation against NATO. I don't think he's not going to do something like that. I believe, he will get more aggressive, and he has to, with Ukraine. And I can tell you my sources, which are very, very good, that in Russia, he's been, although extremely popular with the people, all right, because they understand that he's defending Russia against Europe, basically. I even spoke to an old friend who's not into politics in Moscow, and she even asked me, she says, why does everybody hate it so much? And look, this is this is what's going on. And Europe is in absolute dire condition. I had people at the Vienna Peace Conference a couple months ago called me back. This is no longer about peace. This is all about war, and talking about everybody now better start, drafting people. I spoke to people that directly in meetings in Brussels. And I was asked, why is Germany so gung-ho on war? And I explained, look, Germany's, believe it or not, is 25% of the EU, but Germany is at risk of default. All right, there's only 2 economies in the entire world that are actually shrinking in size. I'm not talking about a recession now. I'm talking about shrinking in actual size. That is Japan and Germany. Germany went crazy with the COVID stuff. Then it went crazy with the climate change nonsense. They even, Merkel even banned nuclear energy. And then what did they do? They put on the sanctions on Russia. They're paying 3 times the amount for energy. And look, historically,
wow, they can't. Their factories cannot run with.
No,
they can't be competitive.
And then you saw massive protests, with Volkswagen and stuff, because they said, okay, fine, you have to go with electric cars that nobody wants to buy anyhow. And talking about closing plants, laying off thousands of people, Germany is in serious trouble. And this is why the politicians will not admit it. And they think that, look, the number one strategy they will do when in trouble is you find an external enemy. Carney just did that in Canada. He won the election. How? Oh, it's Trump. He's going to annex our country. All right. He didn't talk about domestic issues. All right. You have to find an external enemy. All right. Europe is doing that to Putin. So no matter what Putin does, he's evil. He's going to come, invade. If Ukraine falls, he'll come and take all of Europe. He's been there since 1999. All right, for 26 years. He hasn't done that. But more importantly, when you look at such invasions, all right, why did Hitler want to go for Russia or Napoleon? And even, you go back to the days of Peter the Great. They've tried to conquer Russia numerous times because it is, the richest country in the world from a natural resource perspective. All right. When you look at World War II, why did Japan go into Manchuria? Very simple. They were buying all their energy from the United States, the same as basically Germany was buying all its energy from Russia. All right. They have no natural resources. They invaded Manchuria to get that. Okay. It's profitable. You don't invade a country that has nothing.
This is the Roman business model all over again. We'll take you over. We take your stuff. We get rich.
Look,
we have a good army.
This is it. I mean, even in the ancient days, you went after countries or whatever. You even had Alexander the Great. If there wasn't something there, the troops were not going to fight because the troops shared in the spoils.
Okay. Hold that thought. I'm going to go and pay some bills here with my.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. Amazing information, and I trust Martin Armstrong. There's been times that I've shared some information from Martin Armstrong, and I've got people come on and talk about how he's an ex-convict and this, that, and the other, and he ripped off a bunch of people. I don't think that's necessarily true. I'm thinking Martin Armstrong was set up. If he was a convict and he ripped off a bunch of people, he wouldn't have the position he's in. I mean, he's a very wealthy guy. And he talks to heads of state all over the world for financial advice. He's got a hell of a computer program, I guess, that kind of tells where things are going. And he can kind of predict the future based on the data. Like, he might have the first AI system, and he's had it for years, decades, I would say. Okay, but let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog. I'm following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's come back here. And right here, USA Watchdog, right here is the link to that video. You know, I was like 13 minutes into that 1 hour and 7 minute video. So there's a lot of information in there. If you want to scroll down here and click that link and watch the rest of it. Okay, we're going to go listen to Barry Cunningham. He has some great information, and he wants to share some information on DOGE subcommittee. So let's get into that and see what that's all about. Okay, if it starts here, that would be fantastic. I've clicked it.
All right, so we got the DOGE hearing starting, and at 2:25 or so, I'm going to break for Rebecca's interview, and then we'll go right back to the DOGE. So this should be enlightening. This should be fun because it's talking about cuts. It's talking about cuts because of the newcomers. It's talking about all the different things that DOGE has put together. And so you're going to have that round robin of idiot Democrats who are reclaiming my time and Republicans talking about stripping and doing away with so much of the funding. Let's listen in for a little bit here.
Turn around and donate to Democrat political campaigns. This intricate web of connections is how elected and appointed Democrat officials and allied NGOs work together. Federal agencies fund NGOs, and the NGOs shape the agency's behavior. It can be hard to tell where the government ends and the NGO begins. The nonprofits essentially serve as an arm of the government. To put it another way, if the permanent bureaucracy is the de facto fourth branch of the government, then these leftist NGOs are the fifth. Our witnesses today will describe how the left has funneled hundreds of billions of U.S. tax dollars through NGOs, discuss the destructive policies this has enabled, and detail the damage done to our country. So-called green energy NGOs are among the worst offenders. They have used federal dollars to destabilize the U.S. power grid and energy dominance, while raising energy costs on Americans. The Biden EPA steered billions in U.S. tax dollars to leftist climate NGOs via a $20 billion slush fund known as the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, GGRF. Like-minded nonprofits were enlisted to implement President Biden's Green New Deal scam. While we are grateful to the Trump administration and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin for shutting it down and quickly terminating these grants, further accountability is necessary. The full Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is investigating Biden's GGRF. We know that all the awardees are connected to both the Biden administration and Democratic donors, and that they sit on each other's boards in an incestuous circle. Today, we will shine light on this dynamic. Take, for example, who the Democrats choose to bring in as their witnesses. Someone so entrenched into the system that she was the director of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, a leader of a housing organization that lobbied for more federal spending, and now a nationally renowned nonprofit leader who donates to Democrat campaigns. Other examples include many green NGOs that employ former Biden administration officials. These people wrote the rules for this climate grift in which they now partake. As government officials, they were paid by taxpayers to conduct the grift. Now taxpayers are funding the grant awards that pay their salaries. This cash grab was so large that some nonprofits were birthed solely to get in on the game. One newly created nonprofit, Power Forward, received an astonishing $2 billion from Biden's EPA, despite having just been formed. Power Forward is now part of a network tied to Rewiring America, which employs Stacey Abrams, the twice-failed Democrat candidate for governor in Georgia, and voting rights activist. After all, however, she would have been a good hire given her history of running her own nonprofit, which spent $3.2 million on campaign resources instructing voters to support her campaign, all of which are prohibited actions for nonprofits. Consequently, her nonprofit was levied the largest penalty ever imposed in Georgia's history for violating state campaign finance laws. This is the circle of life. Climate and energy is just one area where the entrenched bureaucrats and political appointees have partnered with NGOs to do the left's bidding. Illegal immigration is another. Federally funded NGOs have egregiously abused tax dollars to fund the invasion at our southern border by providing housing, transportation, legal services, and more to shepherd illegal aliens across our border and settle them in our country. These NGOs support the cartels in their mission to invade our country. Under the guise of assisting migrants, these groups have placed criminal networks, dangerous gangs, and human traffickers into American towns and cities. Think about this. The American people's hard-earned taxpayer dollars have been used to literally import rapists, murderers, and terrorists from around the world straight into our communities. Where were these NGOs when 22-year-old Laken Riley was violently murdered by an illegal? Where were these NGOs when 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungare was brutally raped and murdered by one of these illegals? And where were these NGOs when 20-year-old Kayla Hamilton was raped and strangled to death by an illegal? Where were these NGOs over the weekend when the illegal alien launched Molotov cocktails into a crowd in Boulder, Colorado, intentionally injuring a dozen Americans in an anti-Semitic attack? I'll tell you, they were continuing to receive taxpayer dollars to import more of these illegal alien monsters to commit more heinous crimes against our people. Many Americans are familiar with the more egregious offenders. These include Catholic Charities, which raked in over $2 billion during Biden's 4 years, and the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, which received over $221 million in government grants in fiscal year 2023 alone. But many American taxpayers are still unwittingly funding this sort of illegal activity through the United Nations, which is the conduit for much of the funding NGOs use to resettle in our country. Americans are likely unaware that their tax dollars are funding UN efforts such as the cash and voucher program involving 624,000 illegal aliens crossing the border just last year. This $372 million program provides prepaid debit cards and cash in envelopes to illegal aliens to facilitate their movement to and through the U.S. border. The American taxpayer is funding groups that start the migration, the groups that show people how to cross the border by evading U.S. immigration laws. These groups that have been bused and flown illegal aliens, many of them dangerous, into America. Whether exploiting taxpayers to push illegal immigration or fake environmental justice, the left's NGO scheme seeks to destroy our country and fundamentally alter the American way of life. This ongoing waste and abuse of taxpayer resources must end. The Trump administration is turning the tide, and today's hearing is intended to expedite the effort to drain these slush funds dry. If we don't, Democrats can't wait to return to power and continue funding their NGO friends through slush funds and stop deportations. Keep these illegal alien criminals in our country, and of course, fund the Green New Deal scam again. And with that, I yield to the ranking member Stansbury for her opening statement.
All right, folks, there you have it. Amazing. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's done a couple of things that I thought, scratched my head on. But I tell you what, she puts it out there. She tells it like it is, and it's amazing. I've always asked, how do these thousands of people that come up from Central America into Mexico and into the United States, where do they get the water? Where do they get the food? I mean, they're on a trek for several days. They need food and water, and they always, when they get to the border, always seem to have new clothes, new tennis shoes. Who's funding this? Well, now I know we, the United States citizens, with our tax dollars, going to Washington, D.C., and then filtering it through these NGOs so they can bring all these. And why? Why? And then give them prepaid debit cards funded by taxpayer dollars. Why? How does that benefit them other than maybe allowing them to keep voting these criminals back into office? That's the only thing I can figure. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Barry Cunningham. I'm following his channel. I'm giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's get back here. And folks, this right here, this is a 3-hour and 27-minute video. Okay, I'm at the 34-minute mark. I shared about 12 minutes of this 3-hour. Okay, so let's get back here and move on to Doug in Exile. Okay, now this is a YouTube video, and I've had problems in the past with when I played a YouTube video, the audio didn't come through. Now I can hear the audio here in my headphones, but for some reason it doesn't come through in my broadcast. Now let me come over here. This is Doug in Exile. Closed caption. Let me try that.
Haven't subscribed. Well, I just feel sorry for you. This is on Twitter. This is just
now. It's playing now, so hopefully I'll be watching on my TV to see if the audio comes through on this.
Jessica Tarloff. Oh, Jessica Tarloff. She says, it's official. The honeymoon phase is over. On talking strategy, the Democrats want Trump's big, beautiful bill to go down. I'll prove it to you. At the end of this thing, Chuck Schumer has a ridiculous.
Here's the "we are all going to die" act.
It's just a ridiculous quote. In fact, I got a lot of great, funny stuff in this. We're going to hear from Tim Burchett, Speaker Mike Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene from the House floor. We got a ton of news to cover. So why am I dilly-dallying? Why aren't I pressing play right now on The Honeymoon's Over?
Calls him back today. I talked to President Trump, all the time, multiple times a day. Obviously, we've talked about this. He's, as you know, he's not delighted that Elon did a 180 on that. But look, I don't know what happened in 24 hours. Everybody can draw their own conclusions about that, okay? But I look forward to talking to my friend about it again, and I'm not upset about it, all right?
Elon Musk did a full 180. Trump and Elon Musk are friends, but who knows what's going to happen. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene on the House floor about that AI thing that I covered so much. She went off. We're still supporting her. She has not changed her mind. God bless her and give Godspeed to her.
I rise today to address the House about a clause that is in the One Big Beautiful Bill. This clause would take away state rights to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years.
I think that's a problem. I really do. I know that they have to be able to grow and expand and, be able to turn on a dime And to get approval from some of these state legislatures, it takes months, if not years. But I don't believe that they should be able to just go wild and do whatever they want, because it only takes one or two bad actors to be in there to turn it all against us, the American people. There has to be some oversight. It's not like we can't have a middle here. I mean, if we have total government control, well, then it'll go nowhere. And if we're competing with China, then, okay, congratulations, China, you win. But then we can't have them just go hog wild, especially if one or two bad actors get in there, then we're doomed. There's got to be something in the middle that works, I think. I think
federalism is something that we must always protect. And I warn against the dangers of protecting a tech industry where we have no idea the future of what this industry will hold. AI is rapidly developing. AI has developed quickly over the past few years. Imagine what it will be 1 year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now.
It will be the world's strongest tool. For those of you who care about tools and who wields them and what kind of rights are associated with those tools, AI will be the world's strongest tool. It might already be.
When we look to the future, we cannot take away states' rights to regulate or make laws to protect the people in their state or to regulate businesses that operate in their state. That would be destroying the very foundation of this country, which is federalism. We must always limit federal power and protect state power. Now, the pushback and the reasons that I've been told about this is that American tech and AI companies must be able to compete with China. Well, American and tech and AI companies can compete with China, and they should compete with China. However, we don't destroy federalism in order to allow them to do that.
She's dead on. Guys, I can't agree with her more. Remember, what the Democrats always offer is, if you give up your liberty, we'll make you safe. She's saying, do not give up on your federalism. So that's foundational. That's philosophical. That's a strategy. That's very good. This isn't the first time that businesses came and scared us and said, if you don't do this, then China will beat us. There's this old song that Larry Norman used to sing in the 80s. The government says China will beat us. We've shot all our dreamers. There's no one left to lead us. In the 80s, they were writing songs about saying that China's gonna beat us. Don't let that fool you into giving up federalism. Federalism is way more foundational.
That would be a fool's errand. Here's how this can work. Governors and state legislatures can make their states friendly for tech companies in AI. You don't destroy federalism for one industry, you protect it and allow states to compete to bring those companies into their states. That's the right way to handle this going forward. No matter what political party holds office and is in charge, we should all watch carefully the bills that we pass, and we should be mindful about protecting not only state rights, but the rights of the American people. True. And look to the future.
True.
And we never destroy federalism for the future of an industry that we have no idea what it will do. With this warning, I urge all of my colleagues that when the House gets to vote on the One Big Beautiful Bill again after it leaves the Senate, that we make sure we protect federalism and at the same time urge our colleagues in the Senate to pull this clause out of the One Big Beautiful Bill. This bill should be about tax policy, protecting Americans to not have to have a tax increase of over $4.7 trillion. It should be about America First Energy and Americans' border security, not about allowing AI to run rampant and destroying federalism in the process.
I just wanted to have you hear it straight from the House floor. That's her. And she's saying now, the big beautiful bill is going to the Senate for markup, then it goes back to the House for final signing. When it goes to the Senate, she has said earlier, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, she said, if this protection for AI stays in that does not allow states to take them to court, she will not sign it. Between her and Rand Paul, that should be enough to can this thing. So this bill is in jeopardy. Now, because that AI language got smuggled in there, it should be in jeopardy. So let's do Stephen Miller's tweet first. This is Trump's guy. One of the bigger points of confusion on the big, beautiful bill is spending versus tax cuts. The lefty CBO, Congressional Budget Oversight Committee, says extending the 2017 tax cuts, preventing their expiration, increases the deficit. Some critics have seen this figure and claimed or implied the bill increases spending. That's DOGE, that we've heard Rand Paul say that. They've made that claim. Even according to CBO, the bill cuts spending over 1.6 trillion. So when libertarian example Rand, that's Rand Paul, attacks the deficit impact of the bill, they are attacking the tax cut that they're going to leave in place. Of course, honesty accounted, extending current tax rates has zero deficit impact, which is why the bill, because of its spending cuts, reduces the deficit. Stephen Crowder's response in agreement. Miller is correct here. I'm no fan of raising the debt ceiling, and I'm always in favor of cutting spending. But there are certain realities you have to come to terms with. This is a reconciliation bill which deals with mandatory spending. DOGE cuts would affect discretional spending, therefore could have never been included in the bill. That was my own opinion too. It might still be wrong, but I agree with Stephen Crowder. That's what I know so far, that literally they can't do what Elon Musk wants them to do by their own rules. Furthermore, on top of cementing Trump's tax cuts and funding desperately needed on immigration measures, the bill is a major cut to entitlements, 1.6 trillion. If you wait to introduce any of these measures in an appropriations bill, not a single one would get through because you'd need a 60 vote majority. And that's important. As soon as you start changing the numbers on them, you have to get like a super majority. You have to get much more. And we can't get 10 Democrats to vote on this thing. So it wouldn't pass. And you'd still end up with an increase in the debt ceiling. This bill provides a real opportunity at enshrining pro-growth policies so we can start reducing the debt to GDP ratio, which is the ultimate goal. And I love that breakdown by Stephen Crowder. Very wise. Here's Tim Burchett.
Okay, I'm glad that I played this for you, and that's the reason that I played this for you, because there's been so much give and take and this and that and that and this. And DOGE cuts were discretionary spending, are discretionary spending. And when you put that in there, he's right. One of these budget bills, it takes a majority, not a supermajority, not a 60 vote acceptance in the Senate. It only takes 50. And then J.D. Vance would come in and break the tie. If you have a 50-50 vote, if you have, some Democrats or some Republicans that just don't vote, or they may vote no on it. I don't know. I mean, they do that in the House where they just vote present, don't vote yay or nay. But the thing is, you're not going to get 7 Democrats to jump on board and say, yeah, Trump's doing the right thing by cutting this spending, because if he does that, then I'll get less money paid out so that I can campaign and steal elections. No, you're not going to get Democrats to do that. So let's play a little bit more here on this and see what Tim has to say.
Because he just came out of a Pentagon meeting with Pete Hegseth, where they all found waste, fraud, and abuse. And Pete Hegseth said he would reduce $10 billion from the Pentagon budget.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett, just leaving oversight committee talking about fraud within our Pentagon, something I'm very passionate about, but I made the statement that the Pentagon's going to they got their lobbyist, and they'll continue.
A Pentagon lobbyist was in there dragging their feet on the cuts. Pete Hegseth, find out who that lobbyist is and give us his name.
They'll continue to profit, and as my daddy used to say, he was quoting somebody else, old men make decisions, young men die. We'll never fix this problem because we don't have the guts to do it, because y'all got to send some people out here with got some ethics and morals.
That's very disheartening. I have a lot of respect for Tim Burchett, but he said, this is never going to get fixed. That's hard to hear. And then he said, we're talking about strategy. He said, you all got to send someone up here that has some passion for these cuts. That's implying the primary season, like we're going to primary our own Republicans, the ones that don't have passion, which I don't know if that's a good strategy either. That's what David Hogg is doing over in the Democrat Party. Do you really want to divide your own party? I love the idea of primarying. If you have some MAGA guy that will smear Lindsey Graham or something, I'm all for it. Support him. But if it's close, if it's very close and you lose, I got nothing for you. You have one job, and that's to win.
Thanks, brother.
Well, we've turned over some Republican senators here in Indiana. Okay, we primaried them out, and then the Democrat won. But what the hell? Then we got a Republican back in after that Democrat's term was over. But my standpoint is, if you're going to frickin' vote like a Democrat, if you're a Republican and you're going to vote like a Democrat, act like a Democrat, what the hell's the difference? Might as well get a Democrat in there. That way when we do blame them for acting like a Democrat, it'll be legitimate because they are a Democrat, but they're not voting any different than what you were voting. So, that's fine. If you primary an existing senator out and a Democrat gets in, oh well, what difference does it make? The senator that you've got primaried out was voting like a Democrat anyway and acting like a Democrat. So, the next round, you can correct it. But if you don't do anything, if you keep backing these assholes that act like Republicans, rhinos, Republican in name only, it'll be there forever, for the rest of your life. It's just my stance on it.
Anyway, just keep fighting. We'll see what happens. Thanks.
You keep fighting, Tim Burchett. I'm with you on that. Now, here's a funny Tim Burchett video of him leaving, but he's got this weird stalker, this kid on the left that he's going to walk up to here, who always asks him about certain things, and then Tim Burchett just gives a royal roast of him.
Are you worried that your vote to gut Medicaid will shutter hospitals in your district?
Are you worried that you're not featured in the latest Stranger Things edition?
I don't know if you heard that. The little woke kid goes, are you worried that your cuts are going to end hospital visits for Medicaid people? So he's a Democrat doing his fear mongering. Tim Burchett goes, are you worried that you're not featured in the new Stranger Things series on Netflix? And then watch this. He comes up and he gives this MAGA guy with a sign a high five. This is awesome. God bless you. This is
okay. I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I'm 11 minutes into this video. Okay. This video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up, and it appears that the volume in this video was fine. And let's go ahead and get back here. And I've got a lot of chats here. People concerned about, I've got 60 people watching right now, so that's good. They're asking, where is everybody? Where is everybody? I just went ahead and jumped. Okay. All right. Well, let's slide down here. Okay, and wrap this up with Vince Dow. Okay, Vince is. I haven't shared information from him for a while. He definitely has some good stuff. MSNBC attacks CNN on air as media civil war explodes over Jake Tapper and Biden cover-up. Okay. And again, all right, this is, I think I have closed caption on here. So the delay, I'm going to go ahead and start this and see if we actually have any audio. And if not, then I'll come back and we'll do something else. But keep your fingers crossed. Here we go. This Rumble Studio. So let's go ahead and see what this is all about.
So one of our favorite pastimes on this channel is to talk about the civil war that is going on in the Democrat Party and the way in which the Joe Biden mental decline story out from CNN only exacerbated some of the ridiculous infighting, because you have one camp that wants to admit they were actually wrong and the other camp wants to simply stick by their guns. No, that loser, unpopular geriatric president who handed Donald Trump the presidency for a second time, he's our guy. We need to defend them. We may have a 21% approval rating handed to us in the wake of Joe Biden, but we will never admit when we are wrong. And that is, of course, the ridiculous behavior of the Democrats. But what if I told you that the same exact phenomenon is currently happening between mainstream media networks, specifically here CNN, of course, the Jake Tapper network that broke the story on the original Sin book, although I would argue it is not really breaking the story, okay, as I've long expressed. It's kind of pretentious, frankly. It's irritating as a conservative who has talked about Joe Biden's mental decline for years to pretend as if Jake Tapper is some type of gift to humanity for telling us what we all clearly saw with our eyes for years, and CNN, among other mainstream media networks, blatantly denied. But whatever, this video is not necessarily about that. It's about the fact that over at MSNBC, they are apparently in such fierce denial, okay, they do not even want to admit one bit. They're willing now to go down with the sinking ship known as Joe Biden and the Democrat Party, which I think, frankly, is pretty fitting. Okay, because you're talking about a network currently that we've been talking about since the 2024 election is massively struggling in the ratings, right? They've been dealing with massive layoffs. As you'll see here in a second, the ratings are continuing to dip. And of course, why is that? Because not only is the Democrat Party a complete joke of an institution, and when MSNBC just does propaganda for the DNC, gee, you don't say 20% approval rating in the Democrat Party means less people are watching MSDNC, first of all. But secondly, this seems to be very important. When you have a network that represents a failing geriatric party, guess what they're going to do? Much like their failing geriatric president, just slowly wither and rot away. That apparently appears to be the case. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about how the folks over at MSNBC seem to be very thinly veiled attacking CNN and Jake Tapper pretty directly because they are fuming. They're absolutely so pissed off about the fact that the media might stop its Trump derangement syndrome for about like 2 seconds to talk about Joe Biden finally, after they should have been doing this for years. It is truly ridiculous to say the least, but what else could you expect over at MSNBC? Some of the most delusional, just frankly almost hard to watch people on the planet. But today we're going to sit down and watch that. First though, folks, do us a favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. You subscribing is the best way to support our work and ensure that we can keep doing these videos. And with that said, you know, I think this was always going to be an interesting question of, well, how exactly is the not the Democrat Party, well, technically the same thing, but the MSNBC going to handle the Joe Biden mental decline, of course, becoming a, news headline in 2025, because of course, the whole media is guilty, but you may remember, of all media networks who may have been the most guilty of the Biden cover-up, yes, MSNBC was among the top of them. Everyone has seen that Joe Scarborough clip, so I don't want to play it again, but let's remind ourselves, it was literally all of them.
In that case. Well, yeah, especially this line that the president quoted where the report refers to him as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. What is the word elderly doing there? And poor memory, what is the test of that? Might that be Donald Trump saying, I don't recall 400 times under oath in the same deposition? Is that a good test of it? The idea that witnesses over a 40-year discussion, don't remember everything, or that someone who graduates from college in June can't tell you where the diploma is in September. That seems to be a condition that this special prosecutor doesn't understand in the human mind. So I'm going to be fascinated when I can get into all these hundreds of pages to see what is it that makes you stress the lack of memory in this particular case, where you have this completely cooperative witness, and there has never been a witness under oath anywhere being questioned over a period of years of that witness's life where they don't say, I do not recall. It is impossible to ask witnesses questions where they answer will not be, I don't recall. And if you don't get that response, it just means you didn't ask enough questions.
Right. So as everyone knows, this is what they were saying. Joe Biden doesn't have any mental decline. Joe Scarborough said that he was sharp as ever. And this character right here remarks that it is inappropriate to even refer to him as an elderly man, which of course Robert Hur and the special counsel report, wrote down because of the, now that the tape is out, by the way, the very obvious fact that Joe Biden was like, like you heard with the tape, right? Everyone, we played it actually before, but that is of course the hill that they were dying on for all of 2024. But it is now 2025, so you may ask the question of, will MSNBC backtrack from this? Will they kind of admit they are wrong, or are they seriously going to stand there and double down on the sinking ship that is their own ratings, the political party they represent, etc., etc.? Well, we're about to give you the answer because it comes in a couple of different forms. But first and foremost, I do want to show you the way in which now, I believe former, right? He's fired actually now from MSNBC. So maybe we shouldn't label this as MSNBC, but nonetheless, the former host over there, Chuck Todd, none other than him, is now going out, okay, and arguing, as Jake Tapper is writing all about, the cover-up of Biden's decline, he's arguing the media is not complicit. He's saying that people at both CNN and MSNBC didn't really cover it up all that much. The mainstream media, now he's arguing, was always talking, right? The revisionist history was always talking about Joe Biden's mental decline, aka what is that? It's an excuse. It's a deflection. Nonetheless, take a listen for yourself. This is stage one you're going to see about the MSNBC, or at least former MSNBC, cope about the fact that they're now being exposed as, of course, the biggest liars in all of America. Take a listen.
This is not a media failure. This is a failure of the Democratic Party. And I just sort of the virtue signaling that some people have done to try to say that the media missed this story. They didn't miss this story. David Ignatius wrote, I just refuse to accept this stupid premise because it's a right-wing, manufactured right-wing premise in order to stain the media. The media's got plenty of things to attack them for, and there are MSNBC and CNN and pundits that absolutely carried water for Joe Biden, but they're not journalists. They're former strategists that carried water for Joe Biden. The journalist, David Ignatius, wrote a very high-profile column in October of 23 saying, is he really running again? This doesn't seem like a good idea. People like me were promoting Dean Phillips's campaign because he was running
Wall Street Journal did a bunch of coverage.
So it's not like this. This isn't WMDs, where the White House worked with the mainstream media to manufacture a story that did not exist. That was a press failure, massive press failure. This was not that failure. This is an attempt by some to virtue signal, and it's this horrible sort of pitting different news organizations against each other, when ultimately the people at fault are Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Jill Biden, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, every elected member of Congress.
So don't get me wrong. Obviously, all of those Democrats are to blame. Yes, the Democrat Party, you could say, even is the chief number one culprit in this situation, but they would not have been able to do it, of course, without the mainstream media. And what is that? Very transparently, very nakedly, it is an attempt to deflect and shift the blame away from themselves to basically say, oh no, it's the Democrats' fault. Now, objectively, I do find it to be entertaining to watch the media and the Democrats fight each other, considering the media is like the fourth estate, essentially, of the Democrat Party. But nonetheless, okay, the justification there used by Chuck Todd is basically that this one guy, David Ignatius, wrote in 2023 that Joe Biden should not run for president again. That apparently negates the endless barrage of coverage that we hear, as we played for you before. Oh, but those are pundits, not journalists. Oh, but how many journalists actually talked about it? He names one guy and himself. The co-host there goes on to say, oh, well, the Wall Street Journal talked about it. The Wall Street Journal? You mean the center-right newspaper talked? Oh, gee, yeah, you don't say. Okay, did the New York Times talk about it? Did Washington Post talk about it? At least, before the June 27th presidential debate? Absolutely not. That is exactly the point. But anyways, that is step one of the pathetic cope and denial that these people are going to engage themselves in. But now, all of the sudden, ladies and gentlemen, it would appear at MSNBC proper, they have moved on from that. They've moved on from trying to even shift the blame at the Democrat Party. No, they are just simply owning this, and they're actually doubling down on the promotion and the celebration of Joe Biden and essentially everything he did. And one way I know that is the fact that despite the fact that this month, of course, that original Sin book came out and it's the biggest story, at least in the mainstream media. I don't care about it necessarily because, again, we already knew, but nonetheless, at the same exact time, MSNBC just promoted Jen Psaki, who you may remember is Joe Biden's first press secretary before Karine Jean-Pierre, to the primetime slot that would replace Rachel Maddow. Now, very hilariously, she has seen a 47% dip in ratings. I don't want to get too much into that because in case we want to do a video of our own, but just know, to make a very long story short, instead of looking at someone like Jen Psaki, who of course is complicit, went along with the biggest cover-up in, modern presidential history. Instead of saying, CNN is kind of doing, hey, maybe it's a different era in the media. Maybe we need to change. Maybe we need to move on from the Biden era people a little bit. No, what did they do? They promoted her. You can't even make that up. And on that same front, Jen Psaki, again, former White House press secretary, now promoted by MSNBC, is going so far as to recently say, now that people are asking her about it, because it's like, hey, you just got promoted, what do you think of this recent book? She goes out and basically says that she never saw evidence of Joe Biden's mental decline, but secondly, claims there was no cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline. As I said, these people, forget the grief phase or acceptance or whatever. They're just stuck in denial forever. It's astonishing to watch, but take a listen to Jen Psaki.
I left in May of 2022, just for the facts here. And I have seen Biden once since then, when I took my daughter to the holiday party this last December after he had lost. And so I hadn't seen him in person during that period of time. I never saw that person, not a single time. And I was in the Oval Office every day that was on that debate stage. I'm not a doctor. Aging happens quite quickly. Were things that people saw during that period of time that were similar to that or would have been in a category of that? I don't know, possibly, right? And all these books are going to tell us.
Do you think that were they actively covering it up? Were they sort of in denial, or was that just a bad debate?
I don't understand how they can continue to say this. I mean, they have to be just outright lying because you could see it. I could see it. I mean, I cannot believe that these news stations, I mean, we're talking CNN and MSNBC, they would have shots of Biden and he would be, not knowing where he is, not knowing what to say. And this wasn't coming just from Fox, or just from Newsmax, or just from One American News. These were clips that came from CNN and MSNBC. They couldn't see that, but we could. That's what they're trying to get us to believe. All right, whatever. Well, at least we know that we're not as totally ignorant, insane, stupid as these people are that are trying to get us to believe that they're not.
What is your read on that?
Well, this is what I mean about cover-up is a very loaded term, I think.
Well, it means you knew that it was really bad and you're pretending otherwise versus you're deluding yourself, which I think is what people do a lot.
Well, I understand, but I still think it's like cover-up is often like a crime, right? When people use that term.
They say it's worse than the crime.
People use that term as they relate to Watergate or the covering up of not sharing public information about a war.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing anybody of a crime.
I understand, but other people have used that term, and I think it's a bit of a dangerous term.
Are you noticing a pattern here between all of these left-wing media figures, some of which formerly had a connection to Joe Biden or Democratic politics? Deflect, right? First of all, I never saw it. It's not my fault. Yeah, sure, you were the press secretary for 2 years. Your job is to follow him around. But I never saw any signs of it. You know? It all happened after I was gone. Yeah, we swear, because again, apparently there were no videos of Joe Biden being stupid or idiotic from 2021 to 2022. Everything just started on June 27th. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I believe that. But secondly, when asked a very simple question, do you think there was a cover-up? She won't answer it. In fact, she spends like 30 to 40 seconds just deflecting on what does it mean to be a cover-up? No. That means Watergate, which, by the way, I would argue this is maybe worse than Watergate, I would say in some ways, but nonetheless. No. Not going to answer the question. Just going to deflect to semantics. Hey, don't use that word. That's loaded language. It's triggering. It's like, are you going to get to the point? Absolutely not. This is what we're dealing with, again, from MSNBC. You have CNN, who is trying to somewhat reinvent themselves. Don't get me wrong, I find them to be disingenuous. I'm not going to defend them in this regard. But it is worth noting, at least they're like trying to make a pivot, trying to jump off the sinking ship. MSNBC is saying, nope, we're riding with Biden still in 2025. And, you can pick which side you find to be more honorable. One is being more truthful. The other is sticking to their guns. They're being more loyal. So I don't know. But kids, you're both just terrible, right?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I'm kind of running out of time here. Let me show you that this video does come from Vince Dow. Got great information. I'm just halfway through his video, okay? And I'm not playing all the videos here tonight, but I'm giving you bits and pieces of this information to show you what's available out there. So, if you want to hear what's going on, then you can come here, or you can go to Murtech.com. But at any rate, this does come from Vince Dow. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's get back here. And these videos that I shared with you folks, again, the links to these videos are right here in the description box. I'm sharing these out. I don't get any commissions or royalties for doing that, but I do get the satisfaction of actually putting this stuff together and giving it to you, a nice variety of the news and information that's out there, and pointing you to where you can go get it. These 4 videos are videos that I've posted here at Murtech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. And this is a free site. I'm not doing this to make money off of this site. I'm doing this to share information so that people can be aware of actually what's going on, okay? Rather than having to rely on the lies and propaganda. Here's Murtech.com. All right. The lies and propaganda. Here's the video I shared from Vince Dow. Here's the video I shared from USA Watchdog. Okay, this information is posted here at Murtech.com, and I update the site multiple times a day, every day. Okay, here's from Doug in Exile, the video I shared from him. So it's all right here. But getting back here, let's come up here and check out the chats. Looks like, well, yeah, we've had some good chats here. All right, let me copy this into a comment, because I always like to include the chat information into a comment, because it's all part of this video, and the chats will just kind of go away after the video ends. All right, and that's how you do a comment. You put information in this little box here, where it says comment. You put that information in there, and then watch what you do. You click the comment button. Boom. There it is. It's amazing. I'll tell you what. I don't know if that's AI, but it's amazing. All right, I want to do a quick refresh here on this. All right. Close out the chat again. Okay, I've had AI, but it's amazing. All right, I've had 200 people look at this video so far. I've got 75 people watching right now as I'm speaking, and I've got 7 thumbs up. So, if I could get like 68 of you to slide down here and give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic. Okay, and to wrap this up, folks, let's come back over here to Murtech.com. As I said, I do have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. Okay, so the link to Murtech.com is in the description box below as well. So I wasn't able to share all this information with you, but I will have a daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30, where I have over 80 videos in my playlist that I'm going to just let play throughout the night. It's my daily news wrap-up marathon live stream. So, hopefully go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee, grab a donut, grab a sandwich, whatever. Come back about 9:30, give me a chance to update my playlist and get that all set up for you. But right now, I do want to thank you for the time that you spent with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.